you.
Good to see you too.
So happy to have you on our VISTV segment. Heather Dougherty is the president of the Flanders Group, and I am really honored that you took the time today to sit and chat with me. So pre-recording, we were talking about remote work, which I think we can't not talk about in these days. We had started VISTV in the hope of just giving a new platform to our industry, the insurance industry, of communication. Then COVID hit, and look at us, we're working remote, and now you're reopened. So tell me about it. So tell me what's happening.
So for us, I think the way COVID hit, we were a mostly in-office workforce. So, and the pace that we had to adjust was essentially, it may not have been 24 hours, but it felt like it evolved very quickly from, okay, there's this COVID virus out there, we have to be really careful, to the governor says we can't come to work anymore. So the transition, I think, was, with no planning, it definitely was bumpy just from a technology standpoint. But we managed, and I don't think our clients or our claimants felt any impact on kind of our glitches. For me, just like this meeting started, there's always a little glitch at the start of every remote meeting, and I can feel like my blood start to boil, and I've had to calm down.
What's interesting that you said, which is true, when we transitioned, it happened super fast, super. Right. We were positioned pretty much with remote work before, but to your point about the claimants and your clients, whether they're insureds or whoever they are, it had to be seamless. But I think that it's a lot about you as a leader, that you made it feel seamless, whether it was or not.
Right. And I mean, I think that our team members are incredibly committed to making sure they knew that both claimants and clients were going to have challenges. And some of them were going to be challenges around insurance or around claims or getting treatment. So, that's the most basic thing we need to show up for. Some of the other things probably didn't get done as neatly. But if we can answer the phones and talk a client or a claimant through a problem, that's what we need to do.
Exactly.
And at the same time, we have, our own employees needed extra nurturing, and I'm kind of a suck it up, buttercup sort of leader a lot of the time, don't whine. Right. And I really had to adjust to a more understanding, nurturing. It doesn't come naturally to me, but I think people needed it. Everybody needed it. The person, everyone in our lives needed a little extra niceness. And
I think it's so true. I know from our medical case management side, where you have a lot of claims management side and we have a lot of medical management side, we're educated as nurses to be compassionate, to be caring, to be empathetic. But this added a whole nother layer to handling, because especially on your end, you have questions coming in from employers constantly on an injury, COVID now as potentially compensable or non-compensable. You have a stress level at the employers that's so high because they're furloughing, they're laying people off.
Right.
I can't even imagine it from your side. I really, truly can't.
And I think there were just so many unknowns early on, and you just have to kind of move forward the best way we can. I mean, I think, to have people who were used to coming to an office that's a very professional space with good technology, nice coffee, snacks, to all of a sudden in 24 hours or 48 hours, they've got to figure out how they're going to work effectively at home. Sometimes trying to juggle, homeschooling children or daycare or even just pets in and out all day. It's just, you know, it's one thing if you have remote employees that's kind of how they've been set up to work. And I think you have some people that work
Oh, yeah,
remotely.
exactly.
So they had an office with a door and a system and a schedule. And now we're coaching our staff of 30 through, like, you know, get up and get dressed every day. Like, you know, you can wear pajama bottoms, but should you, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it has so much to do with, I had spoken to someone previously about leading during this time and how physically, when you're with people, you see emotionally what people feel. You
Right.
get a sense of how the office as a team is working. And when you're on this type of video conferencing, and thank goodness for this type of technology, you can't always assess everything. So you can't assess if they're in pajama bottoms, but
Right.
you can assess that their mood is off, that it's maybe not a pleasant day at home. We
Right.
try to have a no apology zone. So if your dog comes in or your kid comes in, that's okay. But then we're dealing with patients all the time, employers all the time, like you, and you want it professional. So how do you encourage them to continually be professional now that they're home?
Right. And I think that some of it is, you know, getting up, like just a simple thing, like getting up and getting dressed every day, even though, you know, you could turn your camera off and you could talk all day on the phone and still maybe accomplish your work. Does that put you in the best frame of mind to, and I read somewhere, it's not an original quote of mine. It was somebody who worked for, I don't know, one of the big tech companies, maybe Google or somebody that said, I can do my job in my pajamas, but I'm not putting together $1 million deals. I'm not doing my best work. So that was kind of the coaching I tried to do is, you know, this situation is stressful and it's hard and it's unexpected, but that doesn't mean you can't put yourself in a place to do your best job, whatever that is today.
Oh, whatever it is, whatever that setup is in the morning, you know, it's kind of like being told you need to eat a good breakfast before the start of a day. We have a team meeting every week, and that's our topic this Friday is how to continue to have that positive day, but professional day. You know, it has to be professional. If you don't start off in that mindset, it can be lost, you know, and it can impact a client, it can impact a patient.
Well, and you must be, something that I really saw is there were so many different news sources, depending on your political slant or you know, whatever your news source was, if you listened to it long enough, you were going to hear contradictions. So very early on in the crisis, one of the biggest things I was saying to my team members is you're going to believe what you're going to believe, but just make sure that you're listening to good, smart people about how to keep yourself safe. You know, whether it was the early debates, wear a mask, not wear a mask, or just whether or not you believed in the stay-at-home orders or not, or are you safe to go to the grocery store? It's like, make sure you have a news source that you trust. And I can't dictate that to my team.
No, it's important to be informed. You have to be truly informed, but you must have, in the course of COVID, which we're now months in, have dealt with that with insureds as well, with employers. You know, there's such anxiety at that level.
Well, what I feel like particularly employers are looking for early on, especially, I do think it's definitely still a crisis. It hasn't dissipated, but I think it's the level of appropriate information has kind of sorted itself out. There's still extremes, but it's definitely sorted itself out. But early on, they would call us and say, you know, my maintenance supervisor has COVID. Is it covered? And like, we so wanted to answer that question.
Yeah.
But we have to answer it the same way we would have answered, is that back sprain covered?
Oh, I was just going to say that. How many times we are asked at the core of an assessment, what body part was injured and is it covered? And until you get that prima facie medical evidence and you really go through the burden of proof, and analyze everything. You can't answer that. So I can only imagine with COVID claims, the intensity of questions.
Right. So that's, people wanted those answers. And that was the hardest part, was like, I had to remind myself and the team, like, step back and treat this like you would, you know, somebody got an offender bender on their way to the post office at
Right.
lunch. You know,
Right.
that's not, we would never say, yes, that's covered. No, that's not covered.
Right.
So treat the same way.
Right. Much has to do with the media. Much has to do with, like you said, with the information coming out, where it's coming out from, who's dictating it. You know, it's easy when you can deal with one jurisdiction. It gets complicated as each jurisdiction is different, and the autonomy of each area, and what they're, look at the rollout now and the reopening. So you were saying before we started that you're reopening. Best of luck with that.
Thanks. So we have an office that seats about 50 people. We currently only have about 30 on staff. So we already had a lot of space. There were about 5 of us that continued to come to work even from day one, never worked a remote day at home. And there were mixtures for that. I think for me, I felt like I would do a better job if I was able to come to the work here in the building. And I felt like we were able to do it in a safe way. So for me, it was a blessing to just be able to get up, get dressed, leave the house, and come here every day.
Oh, it changes the focus. I definitely think it changes the focus.
Yes. So but you've been at home every day, right?
I have been at home. So our space holds about 15. We have a team of 20. So we've had people work from home remotely, you know, from the beginning of the company. But I find the camaraderie is what is so necessary to create a spark of, you know, that creativity of a new service that we might offer, or you hear how someone's speaking to a client or a claimant, and whoever it is, and you get to have input in that. Some people want to be back in the office for sure, and others, it's saving time traveling, it's saving costs, it's saving daycare, childcare, you know, so many things.
I mean, I think for most of our team, the commute is at the most 20 minutes. So getting, and everyone's driving a car. So getting and coming to work really isn't the burden. I think we have some people who are less excited about being back in the office for various reasons. I know my operation person disagrees with me. I think mostly because she just wants to try to calm me down. But, you know, I feel like we've lost something not being together. And, you know, I understand we have to do whatever we can to make this world and our community safe again. You know, I said, we had a sales retreat this morning, and I said, I'm going to do whatever I can so I can work, travel, and eat in restaurants. I sign me up.
I'm with you. I can't wait till we have dinner together.
So besides just keeping the community safe and myself safe, that's important. But, you know, I'm ready to do whatever the science says. A month ago, I wanted everybody back like as soon as they could be. And I think I'm more, especially as we're seeing surges in parts of the country that are concerning, I'm less in a rush, because I don't want to do anything that would take us backwards.
No, the risk is too high. And I think being in an industry, both of us from a very young age, that deals totally with risk. You know, I think that was key to me when this came out, this illness. What is the risk to everyone?
Right.
As a leader and that you're heading a company, it's your responsibility, even though you have a great operations team, to make sure that risk is mitigated as much as possible. Although I do find that having not been in the office, there's less distractions that have allowed me really to fine-tune processes.
Right.
Interruptions are less.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I think the social component of work wasn't that important for me. And so the idea that like everybody was gone was kind of nice, you know, but I also know that it's important to stay connected to people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what I had started doing was every Sunday afternoon, I always come into the office for a couple hours on Sunday unless I'm away.
What a
And
surprise.
well, and sometimes, you know, candidly, sometimes it's to do some personal business, you know, sometimes
Oh,
it's to,
it's that solitude. It's the solitude and the
right,
space. Yeah.
you know, send out birthday cards, make sure, you know, the bank accounts, but
Mhm.
I get work done too. So, but it's just always been for the last couple of years, I have it just to make sure that Monday morning I can hit the ground running. So very early, and I'm not a particularly touchy-feely leader or, you know, I've never been too nurturing. I would go back to our earlier conversation, but I realized that if I wanted people, I do care about our team, probably more than I show, that if I wanted people to feel cared for, that I was going to have to do something. It just what they just weren't going to feel
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So every Sunday I started sending an email, and they've kind of varied in tone depending on where we are in the process. Very early on, it was like, make sure you keep yourself safe. You know, I hope you and your family are well. Take care of your mental and physical, you know, well-being. And they were kind of those kinds of cheerleading sort of things. I want people to say through this, the president of our company reached out every week and stayed in touch. I have a friend who works for a very large company here in Rochester. And, you know, she's a professional, she leads a team, but she reports to higher ups. And she's like, I've heard nothing from them except the day they told us to take our laptops and work from home.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be that person.
I think that's part of being a good leader is you were intuitive as to what your team needed at the time.
And then somebody else on the leadership team, it got to be Easter. Not everyone celebrates Easter, but it got to be Easter and we were all still really locked down here. So the leadership team dropped off some cookies, and I know you did like the quarantine baskets. Still your idea. So we sent we all got in our cars really early on Good Friday and drove to everybody's house and dropped off a plant and some cookies and some other fun things. And even though that wasn't my original idea, it was someone else on the team, I decided, so they're getting the weekly email. And then every month we've done something in the form of kind of a care package. You know, I don't remember exactly what they all were. We sent candles and candy, and then we have a local ice cream chain here that I think is
Oh, wow. Oh, I would have liked to have been on that off.
So we sent and I wanted to help a local business. So we sent gift cards to once things started to open up a little bit, like gift cards so that everybody could go get ice cream. And so we've done something like that once a month. And again, I don't know, when does it get tired?
I think from your employee's perspective, probably never. Probably knowing that someone in leadership cares beyond the bottom line, and that 8-hour day is huge. We do weekly meetings, and in the beginning, if it's the nurse in me, I had everyone decide 1 to 10 how you felt, and on the visual acuity scale, pick the face. You know, when you're in the doctor's office and it starts with a smile to a frown, pick the face that you feel. And I could tell by week 4, things were getting bad from an emotional perspective, how people felt. So one day what we asked is everybody to tell us what would they want in their office space at home to make them feel the best possible.
Oh, that's a great question.
And when the answers came back, I was very surprised and said to my operations manager, let's get them everything they asked for. And it was all within, they were not expensive items. It was, I would like a Buddha statue. I would like a candle. I would like a plant. I would like a bouquet of flowers. I would like, it was really amazing to me. I would like a cat scratcher so my cat doesn't jump on the desk.
Right.
And the only one that was interesting that we could not fill was somebody wanted a motorcycle, a Bugatti cycle. But I said, find a little remote control Bugatti. And so we shipped it all out.
That's nice.
Never told anybody that we were doing it. And the week that things started coming, it changed the mood dramatically.
Right.
I think simple. So I think what you're doing is, it's compassion. You know, at the end of the day, everyone wants to feel that human to human compassion.
Right. And, you know, from just kind of switching directions a little bit to the handling of the claims, you know, and I'm not a claims person. I'm not a medical person. I just, you know, I know enough to be dangerous and to muddle through claims. But one of the things I saw early on was the shutdown of the IME system.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just, in doing claim calls with clients, I could see that that was going to be a problem. And that was, it's not the COVID claims that our clients may or may not have that are going to cost them money. It's claims that get extended or
treatment delayed. You know, we assisted a lot of clients in that trajectory of care. So now shut down. How is telemedicine, you know, impacting it? Can we get somebody a telemedicine visit? Like you said, an IME. Does it have to be an in-person exam or can it be a record review? And a lot of IME examiners would comment on certain aspects of care, but they would not give SLUs.
Right.
They would not discuss permanency without somebody physically being in front of them. And that definitely impact. You're not decreasing degree of disability, so you're not able to decrease indemnity. That tremendous impact on claims handling.
Or, you know, somebody needs a simple carpal tunnel or a hernia surgery that gets pushed out conceivably for, you know, 3 or 4 months. I said to my team here, I understand that IMEs aren't happening on April 1st. I get it. But that doesn't mean I want to just be put in a queue and when it finally comes up again, it gets scheduled. We can still be as aggressive as possible.
For sure. For sure, you could get it scheduled. You could get it scheduled, you know, sooner than later. We were doing that with claimants who were unable to attend physical therapy. We really worked with the nurses on work with them on a home exercise program. Let's keep people active. Let's keep people on the trajectory to return to work and no disability. And there's things we can do, but so much was impacted.
Right. And it just, and that's for me, I've got a great injury management team, but I don't know if they would have had that thought process without being probed. And maybe it's because I have the benefit of, you know, hearing a traveler's claims meeting, hearing a Chubb's claims meeting, hearing a NICEF claims meeting, and kind of putting the stories together and saying, I'm hearing one thing here, but another thing here. And initially the injury management team pushed back a little bit and said, we're in the middle of a COVID crisis. What do you expect us to do? I expect whatever the best possible outcome is, that we're working to achieve that. I know that you're not going to be able to schedule an IME for April 15th, but I don't want us to just wait.
No, it's been a fascinating ride, that's for sure. You know, I think telemedicine is here for a while. I'm curious to see what the board does with it, because how many telemedicine visits can you have without physically seeing someone? How do you designate a treatment plan or a degree of disability without actually physically examining someone?
How effective do you think the telemedicine appointments are?
I think it depends on the injury type.
Mhm.
I think you have a sprain, strain of a wrist or an ankle. It's easy by telemedicine to assess that. When you have something that is more, requires more measurements, so something to do with the spine, and you really need to measure range of motion or flexion or extension, it's impossible to do via telemedicine appropriately because it's so subjective.
Right,
You're really watching the person versus physically touching the person.
right. It's got to be hard.
Yeah, it's going to be hard.
It's hard stuff, but it's what's going to get us through. So
Yeah, yeah. But you look good. You look great.
thanks. You too.
You really do.
So good to see you.
So fun.
We'll see each other soon.
We will, for sure, for sure. You take
Okay.
care of yourself.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.